Hi guys, it's Cash, and today we're taking a look at the Season 2 changes, which look pretty simple on the surface, but losing Season 1 tier set is going to leave Preservation Evoker with some glaring holes in their toolkit. So I think the best way to understand how our gameplay changes come May 2nd is to first consider how this tier set influenced our gameplay over Season 1. As we know, our Season 1 tier sets were heavily based around reversion healing, and this influenced us towards taking bronze talents. The 2-set bonus has been significant in shaping the Infinite Hots raid build, using empowered spells to extend the duration of reversion, and taking advantage of the 4-set bonus has been great over all forms of content. Having a buffed instant cast Living Flame proc has filled the gap we had in our single target healing and boosted our damage substantially. And with an increase in Living Flame cast comes an increase in Essence Burst procs, which are largely used for free cast of Disintegrate for even more damage and mana regen. Using Temporal Anomaly to spread reversions over the whole group has been a trademark move for Preservation Evokers throughout Season 1, and this is so we can take advantage of all the additional utility that the tier set lends to reversion. However, when you take away the tier set, will this still be the play in Season 2? How does this affect our damage? And what happens to the Infinite Hots raid build? Well, to answer these questions, let's get a better understanding of where we stand by looking at the recent nerfs, buffs, and the Season 2 tier set. Now, Temporal Anomaly has seen multiple changes throughout Season 1. It had a rework in 10.0.5, and then more recently, the Absorb Shield effect was nerfed significantly. The echoes applied by Resonating Sphere went from 6 down to 4, and now back up to 5, and Blizzard also heavily nerfed the effectiveness of Golden Hour and Lifebind when applied via the echoes from Resonating Sphere. I've got into more detail on this in a previous video, but ultimately I believe these changes were needed to reduce Evoker healing in Raid, and while it definitely affects us in Mythic Plus as well, I think what it's actually done is released us from the stranglehold that Resonating Sphere had on us in Mythic Plus. We consider how well it synergized with this season's tier set, the strong Absorb Shield, how easy it was to exploit Lifebind. It's just been so strong, and our other options weren't really viable. So while the changes have been heartbreaking, I think in the end it is positive. It gives us the freedom to explore other options like Nozdormu's teachings, and maybe even builds us just don't even use Temporal Anomaly, like this empath build that I was using in 10.0.5, and now I get to explore that again. We also recently received a 3% healing buff, so this doesn't affect things like Rewind or Golden Hour, and probably my favorite change, just because I hated the original talent, is Ouroboros. Got a complete overhaul, and now when you cast an Echo, it increases the healing of your next Emerald Blossom by 30%, stacking up to 5 times. So it increases your healing by potentially 150%. And this is a significant healing buff to Emerald Blossom, one that I strongly believe will actually make it relevant in Mythic Plus as a nice AoE heal. The Ouroboros stacks don't have a timer, so you can also hold on to that Emerald Blossom buff for as long as you need. Now, I'm not sure if it synergizes with the Big Blossom raid build. I've not played that build before, so I can't say. A buff to Emerald Blossom sounds like it should work well in a build that uses Emerald Blossoms, but I'm not certain if you cast a lot of Echoes in that build, since Echo is also an essence spender. If you play the Big Blossom build and you have any insight on this, I'd love to hear more about it in the comments. And another recent buff to Preservation Evoker is that Living Flame healing has been increased by 15%. Now, this feels really good currently, so the question is, will they buff Living Flame again once we get into Season 2? I don't think they will, and that is because we have a talent that scales with the damage and healing of Living Flame over the entirety of the expansion. Life Force Mender buffs the damage and healing of Fire Breath and Living Flame equal to 2% of your maximum health. So come next season, we're going to see a big increase in HP, which means a big increase to the damage and healing of Living Flame. To try and demonstrate how this buffs Living Flame even now in Season 1, I've taken points out of Life Force Mender, and we can see that Living Flame heals for about 36,000. And when I talent back into it, the healing of Living Flame has increased by about 11,000. It's now healing for about 47k, which is roughly a 35% increase, and that's only going to grow as we get better gear. And also, don't forget that Life Force Mender increases the damage of Fire Breath as well, so we should also see more damage from that as we get more health. On top of that though, Scarlet Adaptation is still going to be very relevant if you want to buff the damage of Living Flame. The damage buff is based on our spell power, and this will also scale throughout the expansion as we get more and more intellect. So I'm hopeful that the buffs and the talents we just covered are enough to elevate our single target healing and keep our damage relevant for the next season. And while it is sad to say goodbye to the cool utility given to Reversion, and it will be especially hard to see instant cast Living Flames go, let's take a look at what the next season has in store store for us and how it will influence our playstyle. So in patch 10.1, our 2-set bonus is arguably stronger than our 4-set bonus, and I am totally here for that. Our 2-set bonus gives us 2 bonus effects, the first being that Spirit Bloom leaves behind a heart for 8 seconds that heals for 40% of what the Spirit Bloom healed for. Or another way to look at it is that it heals for 10% of the total healing for 4 ticks. So here you can see that it healed for 83,547, and then every 2 seconds the hot ticks for 8,355. Now it is worth mentioning that when Spirit Bloom interacts with an echo, the person with the echo receives 2 Spirit Bloom heals like they do now, and then you get 1 hot that heals for 40% of the total of both the Spirit Blooms. So it's not 2 separate hots like with Dream Breath, it's 1 big hot. But the weird thing is that this hot ticks 5 times instead of 4 times, which means that each tick is for a smaller amount. It still adds up to 40% of what both Spirit Blooms healed for, but it's spread over 5 ticks. And this is currently how it is on the PTR, so I'm not sure if that is intentional or if it will change, but just so you're aware, it is 1 larger hot, but it currently ticks 5 times. So now that we don't have a dire need to keep reversion ticking on all players forever and ever until the end of time, I think the play for Season 2 will be to alternate between spending your echoes on Spirit Blooms to AoE heal, Dream Breath for the double hot during rot damage, and of course Echo Reversion for our single target healing. I don't know about you guys, but I am looking forward to being able to spend echoes on other abilities. Speaking of Dream Breath, the second bonus to our 2-set is wild. Dream Breath healing is increased by 15%, and I mean, what's to hate? I rarely took a Renewing Breath talent for Mythic Plus, but now I get it for free. And when I do take it for Raid, that is just such a massive buff to Dream Breath. Now our 4-set bonus is very interesting and we can talk endlessly about its potential, but I don't think we will uncover its true capability until we're into the swing of Season 2. So with the 4-set bonus, when you cast an empowered spell, you gain a buff called Essence Gathering, and when you reach 3 stacks, you gain an Essence Burst proc and then another one 3 seconds later. So in other words, after every 3 empowered spells, you get 2 free Essence abilities, so an Emerald Blossom, a Disintegrate, or an Echo. So this is pretty cool. Not only is it a very versatile set bonus, but it also grants us lots of Essence Burst procs in a new and very predictable way. The Essence Gathering buff doesn't have a duration timer either, so you can hold it at 2 stacks if you're waiting for a specific event. However, one of the first things I tested on the PTR was whether this works with stasis, and unfortunately, empowered spells stored in stasis do not give you stacks of Essence Gathering when you release your stasis, and that is a bit of a bummer. But maybe it was going to be too OP considering we can trigger our 4-set bonus like every 30 seconds if we wanted to. The new tier set really makes me wonder what kind of talents will be made relevant after the next patch, and if you're wondering too, you can check out this video where we discuss some potential builds, the pros and cons of each, and I encourage you to share your thoughts and builds in the comments.